start the session. Last session we discussed about configuring of array, declaration, initialization of arrays we learned. Yeah. So already backups, everything done in this batch, right? Once you check, if you understood, you continue, otherwise you can look into another, right? Some new people, right? So last session we discussed about working with array declaration and references, and we learned about all array functions, array manipulations we will see today. Technically, some basics. Generally, how we can declare and initialize values into array. This is the point we learned. As we learned that array can handle any type of value. So one example I given to you with various complex types into it and how to deal with them. Now, while working with array, you need to understand about one more important, you need to understand about array manipulation. So actually, TypeScript can use all JavaScript array functions to manipulate array. TypeScript can use all JavaScript array functions to manipulate the array. Array manipulations it can handle, right? Now, technically, TypeScript uses all JavaScript array functions. So I am not giving you all JavaScript here again. I'm not teaching you any JavaScript. I will give you some important functions that we need, because generally, already I told you the prerequisite for Angular is JavaScript, HTML and all. And when you learn JavaScript, you will learn about all array manipulations. And the same is used by TypeScript. So here I will just give you the basic important functions, not all. Means how to manipulate array. Generally, it can use all the array functions. How do we configure and work with all the functions? We will see one by one. So somebody, this Manoj, voice is loud and clear. You check your side. Right. Now, technically important is what are these functions? How do we handle these functions? Some important I will give. So here, general options is how we can read values from array. How to read values from array. Means you can read values from array, the elements. Technically, for reading the values from array, we have some functions. Some functions we have. We can use the options. I already told you, I am not teaching you JavaScript again. So important, I will tell you. So we have functions like toString. So generally it returns all array elements, it returns all array elements separated with comma, that is the delimiter. And we have a function join. This join function, same, it returns all array elements by using a custom delimiter. Custom delimiter is separator. You can put your own separator by using join. So we can read the elements from array by using toString, by using join, or we can do that by using filter and by using find. And you can also do that by using slice. Technically, these are all the functions used for reading values from array. That means filter, it uses a condition. And returns all elements that are matching with condition. That is a filter. I will show you example. Find, it is similar to filter, but returns only the first occurrence value that matches the condition. First occurrence value that matches the condition. Slice, usually it can extract elements. It can extract elements based on index number. I will show you these, how to use them. ToString, join, filter, find, slice, these are the functions. Technically, I am declaring a simple products array. It has some products is a string type array. It has some array means square brace. Okay. It has some TV, some mobile, like shoe, some details are there. Okay. And I want to print them, read and print all these values from the array. So generally, there are various functions for reading the values. Let's see. So the first important, as I showed you, we can use console.log products.toString. It will return all the array elements separated with comma, converts into a string. That means tsc demo.ts and node demo.js. It will return TV, mobile, shoe, all separated with comma. That is general toString actually. So join. So this is toString. Let's keep this toString, right? Yeah. So this is toString, converting everything into string and separated with comma. Similarly, I'm using console.log. You have another function join. How we can use join? Products.join, and I can use a separator, our own separator. You can put your own symbol. I just kept this symbol as a separator. So you can see now When I compile and run this, it can return those elements. Join uses that separator that you have defined. You can put your own delimiter, your own separator by using join. We have option console.log. We have another slice. Usually slice allows to extract based on the index number. That means products.slice. Slice from which index number? Some one index number. And up to which index number? Up to 2 index number. Now, important, it will not include the 2 index number. It will be always 2 minus 1. That means it is going to extract that particular mobile and the display. It has to get that mobile and display. So toString is returning by separating with comma. Join is returning by separating with a delimiter that you have defined. And slice based on the index number, it can retrieve values. It can retrieve all the values that fall between that particular index numbers. Start index and end index. That's how generally we use slice. So these are the basic examples. These are the basic examples for join, toString, join, and a slice. Find and filter. These are newly available into JavaScript. And find is available from JavaScript version ES5. So filter is an older one, some modifications there. Find is newly there. What is find and filter function? How we can use them? Technically, syntactically, how we can use the find function? Actually, array name and we have a find function. This find function uses a callback function. It uses a callback function. It uses a callback function. So into this function, we pass value, val. That means this value contains the first value present in the array. The array first value is passed into this function. So find is like iterator. That means it will read one by one up to end. So first value from array will come and it will be passed into val. And we will return if the val is matching with your condition. Val is matching with your condition. So val with condition. So we define the condition. That means if the value is matching with the condition, it will return the value. Find and filter both are same. But what is difference is find will return the first occurrence value. Filter will return all values. Filter will return all values. So find will return the first occurrence value. I will show you. So how do we define that? Suppose we are having here. Later we will put some complex data. Here let's keep this into a simple collection like LET sales is a number type. And some numerical values, some 2000, 5000, 12,000, like this. Some numerical values here. Right. Now I want to get all the values which are greater than 10,000. I want to get all the values which are greater than 10,000. Then I can use filter, array name, and a filter. Filter, it also same. So it uses a function. Through the function, it will check the condition. and it will return the value matching with the condition or not, and returns those values. That means here I'm using a simple console.log. So sales is an array dot filter. Filter is expecting a callback function, means we have to write a function. Into this function, we have to pass the value. We need to pass a parameter, so that is value or simply sale. You can give any name, okay. And this function should return if sale is greater than or equal to 10,000. So it should return sale is greater than or equal to 10,000 like this. That is the condition actually. I'm writing in one line. You can wrap this in multiple lines for just clarity's sake also. Or there is another technique. You can just point up towards the function without writing the function. Actually, so there is another method I will show you. Means we can use other techniques also. We will learn about them. So what actually happens in this filter point? That means actually happens in this filter context. So in the sales is an array and filter is an iterator. Iterator means it will read first value from sales and it will pass the first value into this function. That function will verify is that first value is greater than 10,000. If it is not greater than 10,000, then it will go to the second one. This is also not greater than 10,000. Go to the third one. It is greater than 10,000. Then it will print it. That means it will return to the log. After that, it will not stop. This filter is an iterator. It will go up to end like that. It will verify every value. Once it reaches end, it will stop. So filter is a function which will start from the beginning and end at the ending. So due to this, what happens now is it is able to return. I compile this and run. It is able to return all the values which are between greater than 10,000. Remember, it is returning an array again. How to read this array we know. That means this is returning an array. We can read the values from the array. For that, I can again use toString or join like this. Because it is returning array, what you can do is you can simply put dot toString. If I say toString, after returning the values are converted into string separated with a comma, and it will print the values separated with comma. That looks okay. So that means you can combine these functions and define. So what is this filter? Filter is used to search for the value that is matching with the condition specified and return the all values that are matching the condition. That's how actually filter works. Find also same. So technically example is this. Find also same, but difference is means it is similar in functionality, but only one point is find is introduced into JavaScript earlier. In the first versions of JavaScript, it introduced in the later versions of JavaScript from ES6, they are introduced, right? And Ankit Gupta, we will talk openly after the session completed. Please note down your questions. So here, what is the main point is people who don't know what is function, how function parameters are used, function returns then they always, it looks like an alien code I have written there, right? But generally, actual, I will show you in a clear form. We have a sales. We have a sales array. That means we are having a sales. Sales is an array. This sales array is having value like 10, 20, 30, 40, like this. Now, what we are doing is we are performing sales dot filter. We are using sales dot filter. This filter is expecting a function. Is expecting a function. This function is expecting a parameter. And the function parameter can be anything. You can use A, B, C, D, anything. Only the point is I return it as sale. That's the reason some people are very much confused about this. But technically, it should be the same name. That's good. But it cannot be the same name as sales because it is returning only one value. In computer programming, whenever you are referring to multiple, use plural. And when you are referring to single, then use singular. So now you write sale, you write A, you write Z, anything is okay. Because that's just a formal parameter. Now what you are writing inside the function? You are writing that return if that A is greater than or equal to 10,000. So that is the condition we are defining. That means greater than or equal to some value. We are using greater than or equal to some value. Suppose greater than or equal to 30. I am defining that. We are using that point. So we are using that definition. Yeah, I know you will understand once you know about general basic functions, right? If you don't know functions, always it is mystery, right? So now here the point is the first sale value is passed into it. That means the first value 10 is passed into it. It will verify is that 10 is greater than 30 or not. It is not. Then it will go and get the second value. Second value is passed into this function. It will verify it is also not matching. 20 is also not matching. Then it will again go to the third. The third is matching. If third is matching, it will keep in the result. If the fourth is matching, it will keep in the result, right? Yeah. It will keep in the result and it will display. So that is the basic approach how it follows. The basic approach how it follows. That's the reason it is able to return all the values that are matching with the condition. This is general how the function happens. Now find is also similar. Only the point is if I use find, observe carefully, I changed find. Find is not understandable to the older versions. Then you compile and run. If anything is ES below, so then it says that I can't understand find method. But find is the latest option available. You can try. So even it shows error, don't worry. Now compile and run this. How to avoid these errors, I am going to tell you later. Configuring of versions and all, I will tell you. So now enter. When I hit enter, demo.js, find will return only the first occurrence. That means why it returned 12,000. That means in the sequence, the first encountered value, which matching the condition, it will return it and it will stop. It will not go to the others. Don't think that it will get the lowest value. No. In the sequential order, whichever encountered first, if it is matching with the condition, that will be returned. That will be returned. That is a general thing actually. So this is the find option. So find is also similar to filter. Only the find point is it returns only the first occurrence value. that matches the condition. That is how it handles. The first occurrence value that matches the condition. So here we define. So example, same. So just I will put this example for your use, right? So this is for filter, and this is for find, right? So in order to read values from an array, you can use these functions. You can use functions, or instead of using functions, you can use some techniques. So next point is you can use loops. You can use loops and iterations. Loops and iterations both are different. Loops and iterations both are not same. I hope you know about that. Generally, loops and iterations. Technically, we can use loops. Generally, what is difference between a loop and an iteration? Can you tell me? What is difference between a loop and an iteration? Are both same? Loops and iterations are both same. What is loop and what is iteration? Can you tell? Difference between loop and iteration. Okay, fine. Yeah, getting so many answers, good. Right. Okay, let's see this. Okay, so many people give an answer, good, right? Yeah. Fine. Okay, let me show you the point here. Means what exactly the concept is. So you all people expressed your views on loop and iterations. And by reading all your answers, I can come to a conclusion that these are all your views about loops and iterations. I think you know views about means you are not sure exactly about them. Okay, so actually, but okay, fine, but actually observe the point here. What is a loop and what is an iteration? Actually, loop uses an initializer. It uses an initializer. That means a loop requires to define from where to start with. And it requires a condition that tells when to and requires a counter. This counter is used for pushing the loop forward or backward. Technically, loop as an initializer means you have to tell where to start. You have to tell where to stop. Push it after reading one, forward or push back. Push forward or backward. So loop cannot perform anything without this. But actually, that's why, how do we write loops actually? We write for, so where I is equal to 0 means initializer starting with 0 and I is then some count and plus plus. That means this is counter. That means this is the initializer from where to start. This is the condition when to stop, and this is the counter. This is the counter, like this is next or this is previous. How many times next, how many times previous, next and previous. That is the counter actually. These are loops generally. And usually we create loops by using for, by using while, and by using do while. So that is what we do. Loops are created by using for, while and do while. These are all used for creating loops. Now what is iterator? So what is iterator actually? Actually, iterator is a software design pattern. It is a software design pattern. Iterator is a software design pattern that comes under the category of behavioral patterns. Creational, structural, behavioral, 24 gang of 4 patterns are there. It comes under behavioral pattern, means communication pattern. Iterator is a software design pattern. And what is the specialty of iterator? The specialty of iterator is nothing but it can read elements. It can read elements from collection in a sequential order. It doesn't require, remember, iterator doesn't require initializer, no initialization. That means it will automatically start with first value. It doesn't require condition. It will automatically stop if there is no value. It doesn't require counter. Why? Because after reading the next value, after reading the current value, it will move to next automatically. That's great. That means you don't need a condition. You don't need an initializer. You don't need an counter. So that means iterator can perform without initializer, without condition, and without counter. And how do we write iterators actually? Iterators are written by using, in TypeScript, we write by using for, and we use in operator. This is for iterating properties. And we use for of operator. It is for iterating values. To iterate the properties in operator. To iterate the values of operator. And very important is it doesn't require initializer. It doesn't require condition. It doesn't require any counter. Generally in your programming languages, you have for each. Am I right? Now you should not call for each. As a loop. That is wrong. Understood? You should not call for each as a loop. If you call for each as a loop, it is wrong. Because for each is not a loop. For each is an iterator. Understood? For each is an iterator. And here we use for, in, for, of as iterators. For, while, do while, they are loops. They are used for designing loops. And this is iterators. I hope you understood the point. What is the difference between iterator and what is the looping? You can use loops for reading values from an array. We can use loops for reading values from an array. You can use iterators. But remember, two iterators are there. For in iterator, which is for reading properties. For of iterator, which is for reading values. But important is, by using properties also you can read values. you have to implement a small technique actually. I will tell you here. So how we can manage that? First, how to use a loop to read the values. So let's create LET categories. Categories is a string type array. In that we have some electronics. So we have some fashion and we have like some footwear. Okay. We are defining these options. We want to read them. Then I'm showing you a simple comment here. I'm showing you loop. How to write a loop for where I is equal to 0, because array property starts with 0. Okay. I less than or I less than categories dot length. That means up to the end of length will return the total count of elements in array. Up to the end of the elements in array. I plus plus. So that means it increments. It will proceed to the next. I value increased by 1. Now we are using console.log and categories array. Into that I pass I. That means first time the value of I is 0. After that it will print it. 0 means electronics. It will check is the length is less than I value is less than the length. Length is actually 3. And is it less than? Yes. If it is less than, it will increment I plus 1. Then second time it will be 1, 2, 3, you know. This is loop. So just I will put here console.log. I'm using here a loop. By using a loop, we are printing the values. Okay. Next, I will show you iterate the properties. How we can iterate the properties. So console.log, I'm just printing here. So iterate properties. And you can observe that iteration requires for where property in the collection is categories. That's how we define the iterator. There is no initializer, there is no condition, there is no counter. Here what iterator can do, it can read every property. Remember, in is a special operator. This in special operator, I will tell you in operators concept, verifies whether there is a property inside this collection to read. If there is a property, it will read. And array properties means 0, 1, 2, it will return that. Now I am printing the properties, console.log. So we are printing the property. Okay. That is array property. We are configuring it. Next, we have iterate the values. To iterate the values, so console.log. So here we are defining iterate values. And I want to print the values. Then I'm using for where val or value of categories. That means it is reading every value present inside that array. Not the properties, every value. And we need to print console.log. We need to print that value. It is reading every value and it is printing that value. It is reading and printing the value. That means now we have a loop and we have an iterator. Iterator for properties, iterator for values. Now I compile and run this, then it should print all of them as expected. And you can see loop is reading all values. iterate properties, it is returning properties 0, 1, 2 are properties of array. Iterate values, it is reading the values. You can use either loop or you can use that iterator. So mostly iterators are good than the loops in various occasions, because without a condition they can start reading. If there is a collection, they will start. Collection have some data, it will start. If there is no data inside the collection, it will simply stop. So, and they're not suitable every time again. Why? Because if dynamically data need to be added, removed and managed, then based on conditions we need to skip the counters. Suppose I want to read by skipping 2 3 values, then iterator skipping 2 3 values is a problem, because iterator means sequentially accessing the elements from a collection. To skip the counters, that means for every 2 I want to read 1, then better we can go with the loops. If you want a sequential access, then better you can go with an iterator. Iterator with properties iterator with values iterator. Actually, by using in operator, so this is example actually. So this is an example. In this example, we have all the options, loops and iterators. Generally, how do we define the loop? The point is, loop requires condition, initialization, and counter. Generally, we write for where I is equal to 0, I less than, so length, and I plus plus, like this. We need to define in this way. And iterator is a software design pattern. Use it to read elements from a collection in sequential order. So it doesn't require explicit initializer, condition or counter. That is the important thing. It doesn't require explicit externally initialization, condition and counter. Generally, we can define for in. This is iterates to properties for of, and this is iterates through values. And this is an example for that. In this example, I given all those. How do we use a loop? How do we use iterate properties? How we use? Actually, through iterate the properties, we can try in this way. See, so I'm using for where property of a property in collection. Collection is categories. You need to be good with this, because later in Angular, we use these iterators only very much. We will rarely use the loops for reading the data from a collection. Almost we never use them, right? We don't like them in that particular situations. We always prefer iterators only. So that means you need to understand correctly how to use of, in, like iterators. So while working with Angular, especially in our Angular, we don't much the loops in various occasions. When dealing with the data, you will find a lot of iterators. We will see that, right? But the property will return only property. Console.log. I'm using one technique here. I want to print I will put property. Okay. After print space, I will print here or simply colon. And I will use an expression. In this expression, our collection name is categories. Into the categories is an array. Into that we will pass property. Actually, the properties are 0, 1, 2. That means you are passing categories of 0, categories of 1, categories of 2. That means it will read the values also. That means once you can collect the property, you can pass the property into array and it will read the values from that array. That means now you can see by using this iterator, we can read both properties and values. Together we can handle them. You can see it can do both. That means we are reading the properties and we are reading the values. We are reading the both properties and values. That's how we can manage reading values from an array. Technically, this is another technique of both. That means you can simply say that you can write like iterate over properties and values, properties and values. You can try this. Iterate over properties and values. You can simply design this. That means you can add this logic extra to that code that can handle that. That means we are reading every property and we are passing that property into that category, right? It is able to handle it. So these are all the options for reading values from an array. In order to read values from an array, these are the various techniques we have for reading values into array. Next important is how we can add elements into array. Add elements into array. This is all the above is about read values from an array. It is about read values from an array. So we are reading the values from array. This is all about reading values from array. And we are here add elements into array. Reading values means you can simply say that reading values are properties. So better we say as read elements from array because element contains both property and value. Okay. How we can add elements into array? How we can remove elements from array? How we can manipulate them? So some basic things also we need to know. I'm explaining this because we have to regularly use them in our Angular applications. So if you are already aware of JavaScript and array functions in JavaScript, the same we are using here also. TypeScript uses all array functions from JavaScript only. Nothing is new here. So people who are not aware, for them, I am giving you some important functions which are regularly used for us, right? So in order to add elements into array, you have push. We have a push function. So that means push is used to add new elements, add new elements. But important is push is used to add new elements, element or elements, one or many. It is used to add elements. So elements as last element, that means as last item, elements as last item, as last items. That means you can say that it will be towards end, towards the end, right? So if you want, then you can use unshift. Unshift, it add new elements as first item or items. That means it will be towards the beginning. So that is towards the beginning. And you can use splice. add new elements at a specific position, elements at specific position, at specific position. You can add at any specific position. That means wherever you want, you can add at any specific position. Generally, in order to do like that, you need collections in other programming languages, because in your other programming languages, arrays are restricted to handle all these. But I told you, TypeScript array can handle all the behavior. Like it can work as a stack, it can work as a queue, right? So here we are defining this. Okay. Now push, shift, and splice, how we can add the new elements into array. So for example, so we have categories. So we have categories like electronics, fashion, and footwear. Some categories are there. Suppose we want to add a new item. Suppose let's initially keep only two things. That means, yeah, these two things are there. Okay. We will add new element. We want to add a new element. Then what we will do is here. So array name, categories. First, I will print this. I will write a function, print list. Okay. I will write a simple for var property of a property in categories. Okay. I am printing console.log. I am printing the property and colon, and I am printing the value, categories of property. Yeah, this is the function. Okay. Now I will call this print list function, which will print that list. Why I created a function? Because I can access and use any number of times. So this is electronics and fashion. These are the options available. Now let's add a new element into array, categories dot push. We can configure multiple items. Suppose I say mobiles. So I defined some options like footwear. So footwear like this. And you can see now, after pushing, I will use print list again. So I will put a message before printing, console.log. I will put a message saying that new items added. Okay. So here I just put as new categories added. Okay. You can check this now. I will compile this. So I will compile this. Okay. And let's run this. And you can see earlier we have only two, electronics and fashion. New categories added, but observe they added towards the end. Mobiles and footwear added as 2 and 3 number. Because we are using push. Instead of push, I will use unshift. When I'm using unshift, you can see that. So I will compile and run this again. This time it will be towards the top. Means mobile and footwear are the new items which are added towards the top, towards the beginning. So others are pushed down. We can add anywhere we want. So suppose I want to add after electronics. Then we have to use the function splice. Splice is a function. Splice function is expecting first index number. Index number start with 1. Okay, good. After that, it is asking, after starting with 1, at what index, means from 1 it will start. Next point is comma. After that, it is asking how many you want to remove from there. I don't want to remove anything, 0. After that, what are the new items to be added? You have to define them. That's how we need to configure. Now, technically, when we are working with splice, syntax will be like this. Array name dot splice. We have to write start index, and we have to write delete count, and we have to define new items. You can add any number of items separated with comma. That's how we use splice. That means from which index you want to start adding. From there, how many, because already at that index some items are there. If I say delete count as 1, that means it will delete one record from there, one item from there, and it will add the new items. I don't want to delete anyone. Then we can just put it as 0. When you are adding new items into an existing position, you need to tell what to do with that existing item. Do you want to replace? Do you want to push it? That's what we need to do. That's the reason 1 indicates starting index, 0 indicates how many to delete, and these are the new items to add. So splice will add new items into this. Splice will add the new items into it, right? And these are the new items. And you can see mobile and footwear are added after electronics without disturbing existing. Down, others are pushed down. The fashion is pushed down, right? Actually, electronics is 0, fashion is 1, and we are adding new items from one position, and existing ons are pushed down. So splice allows you to add at any specific position, one or many or anything you can define. That's what actually the purpose of splice function. So the example is this. So here just I used a print function. So in order to do this regularly, I call the print list, it will print the list. After adding, I want to see the new, then it will call that print list again, and it will print the new list. So where to add, it depends on your requirement. You can add towards the end, you can add towards the beginning, or you can configure at any specific position. This is of adding elements into an array, how we can add elements into an array. These all we will try dynamically, because while working with Angular, you will learn how to add dynamically through the user interface. Because in Angular, you are going to learn how to design user interface. Then through that, you can handle it. So that's the reason no need to worry how to handle it dynamically. First, you need to just understand what it is. Then how to implement them in various examples, we will see them. We will understand about that. This is technically working with adding elements into array. Now, similarly, we need to understand remove elements from an array. How do we manage elements from the array? That we will see in next session. Tomorrow, we will continue about this. Okay. Mostly by tomorrow, we will finish working with the data types. Then we can go into the concept of working with operators, statements, and object-oriented programming in TypeScript, right? Tomorrow we'll continue with this. Okay, thank you.